Okay, this is going to be a video response to a guy that commented on one of my videos, and basically what he's trying to do is put a larger driver and run it with a Rumble 40. Now, there's a couple of things that we could do here. So I'm going to do this, speaking this as both one, to answer his question, and then to give some insight if anyone else is trying to do something similar. Not have to be with this amp, could be with any amp. But he doesn't want to do the amp output like I did, or the auxiliary output like we did on this. So the drivers I was using externally are these Yamaha R112s, and these guys are 12-inch drivers. So first things first. Okay, so it looks like you could, yeah, there's enough room width-wise to fit that driver in there. Now, will that work? Yes, but there's something to consider here, and that's not just is it wide enough and is it deep enough. I assume that it is, but I'm not going to take this driver out plus pull the driver out of here just to figure that out. More importantly is each speaker or driver is designed to work within a certain cubic foot, or possibly cubic meter. I'm not sure. I've never seen it done that way, but it's possible for those who don't use the imperial system. So, for instance, this box is built to be one-ported and be optimal for this driver. However many cubic feet of space is behind that wall. This being a bigger driver is going to require a bigger space. Now, it's usually a tolerance, right? So let's just say this requires between 0.7 and 0.9 cubic feet. So there's a tolerance there. Let's say this one requires between 1.2 and 1.4 cubic feet. I'm just making these numbers up. Don't quote them as being what these actually take. You could put this in here and it will still work, but it may build up too much heat if you're pushing it hard, and it might not sound that good. I've seen a lot of really good sounding drivers sound terrible because they're in the wrong type of enclosure, the wrong size enclosure, and the size, the cubic foot limits, or not limits, but the cubic foot requirements are also different if it's ported or sealed. Ported, I've always, well, I won't say always, almost always I've seen ported as being a larger volume. So we said 0.7 to 0.9 for this, so it might be 1.1 to 1.2 if it's a ported box. Again, just making those numbers up. So that is something to consider if you're going to change drivers out, especially if you're going up in size. Honestly, what I would do if I was going to, if I wanted to drive this driver with this amp, I would flat out just remove the amp from the back side, which there are 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's just the 4 screws in the back, and the whole amp portion will slide out. Now, so when I was running this, I was running 2 of these R12s, and we were running this almost at full volume just on this Rumble 40. And the volume was good, the tone was clean, everything was good, but these MOSFETs started to get super hot. All of them did, like super warm. So we laid this down, put a fan on it, and I may have burnt out. I was losing a lot of bass, so I might have burned out one of these MOSFETs. That being said, like an idiot, I broke off. There's a transistor that was right here, and I broke it off. It's actually, yeah, there it is right there. So this is still good, but I broke it out of the board, so I got to reattach it. but I would take this whole head off and then mount it in an enclosure with this. That's just me. Or build a whole new enclosure with this designed into it, so that it's more purpose-built rather than just trying to find room. Although, if I was, you could slab on an extra piece to the top of this to make that work. But bear in mind, if, yeah, the size would be big, and if you could just put a pocket on here, relocate this to the top of whatever that box is. So that could work. You could definitely do it that way too. So hopefully that's helpful. One of the other things they brought up is whether or not the biamp in here, or not biamp, that's a totally different thing, whether or not I was running both drivers at the same time. And it wasn't. The switching back is just to switch from either running this speaker or whatever the auxiliary speaker is. It could be this one or any other speaker that you plug into the back. Could I run both at the same time? Yes, but they would have to be series, and that would give me a total ohms load of, I think, 8. I think this might be a 6 ohm driver, but I think this is 4. This guy should be 4. Nope, this is 8 ohm driver. So then that, it's either 8 or it's 6. But when you run series positive, negative, then your ohms load is doubled. So let's just assume that's 8 ohms. Then I'd have a 16 ohm load, which is fine because this amp is going to be stable to at least 8 ohms. If you just went positive to positive, negative to negative, then your ohms load, that'd be a parallel wiring, would then be cut in half. So it'd give me a 4 ohm load, which means that I could pump a ton of volume into these, but it means that I'm pulling more current than my amp is willing to give up. And I'm gonna burn out my MOSFETs, which is probably what I did. I don't know if I would have had that problem if I had cooled it to begin with. But that is also something to consider. So you could run them both at the same time, but I definitely wouldn't, and not on the setup that I did. The other reason I wouldn't run them at the same time is they're two different kinds of drivers. So there's a big, in that video I did the first time, you can hear the tone difference between the two, and it's significant. So it would sound really odd to play the same music through two totally different types of drivers. It would just be a weird thing to do. So hopefully that answered the question. If there's anything else, let me know.